Dona Célia, the guardian of hope's 30 years caring for those nobody wanted. Chapter 1. How it all began. 1995. Célia, 35 years old. Célia Santos sat in the doctor's office, holding her husband Roberto's hand, waiting for the result that would change their lives. 6 years of marriage, 5 years trying to conceive, 3 failed IVF attempts. And now, the final news. "I'm sorry, Célia," the doctor said with professional kindness. With advanced endometriosis and complications from the last surgery, a pregnancy would be impossible and potentially fatal. Roberto squeezed her hand. Célia just nodded, as if she already knew. As if her body had already been screaming this truth for years. In the car, neither spoke. When they arrived home, that 3-bedroom house they bought thinking they'd fill it with children, Célia went straight to the room that was meant to be the nursery and collapsed. Roberto found her there hours later, sitting on the floor, surrounded by nursery decor magazines and baby furniture catalogs they would never buy. "What are we going to do now?" she asked, voice broken. "I don't know, but we'll figure it out together." 6 months later, depression had swallowed Célia completely. She, who had always been a dedicated kindergarten teacher, had asked for leave. She couldn't see children anymore without feeling the cutting pain of what she would never have. Roberto was worried. His vibrant wife, full of life, had become a shadow. Until one day, he came home with an unusual proposal. "Célia, there's an opening for a coordinator at Hope Shelter. It's an institution for vulnerable children." "Roberto, I can't work with children right now. It hurts too much." "Or maybe it's exactly what you need. Not to replace what we don't have, but to give meaning to this pain." "What do you mean? You always wanted to be a mother. And there are 47 children in that shelter who desperately need someone who knows how to mother. Not to be their biological mother, but to be the maternal presence they don't have." Célia went to visit the shelter the next day, and what she saw broke and rebuilt her heart at the same time. Children of all ages, abandoned babies, children removed from abusive homes, teenagers forgotten by the system. All with that same look in their eyes. Hope mixed with fear of being disappointed again. "The last coordinator left 3 months ago," the director explained. "She was very bureaucratic. The children need someone who sees them as people, not numbers." Célia knelt in front of a girl about 4 years old, sitting alone in a corner with a torn book. "Hi, my love. What's your name?" The girl looked at her suspiciously. "Amanda. That's a beautiful name. What are you reading?" "I don't know how to read. I'm just looking at the pictures." "Want me to read to you?" Amanda hesitated, but nodded. Célia sat on the floor next to her and started reading. In 5 minutes, 3 other children had joined. In 10, there was a circle of 8 little listeners. When the story ended, one of the kids asked, "Are you going to be our new aunt?" Célia looked at those hopeful faces and felt something move inside her. It wasn't the pain of loss. It was purpose finding its way through the scar. "If you want, yes. I'll be Aunt Célia." She accepted the job the same day. The first years at Hope Shelter were challenging. Célia quickly discovered that loving institutionalized children was different from loving in a classroom. These children carried deep traumas. Many had been abused, others neglected for years. Some simply abandoned like disposable trash. She learned about reactive attachment disorder. Children who had been hurt so many times they couldn't trust adults anymore. About self-destructive behaviors. About how children constantly test to see if they will be rejected again. She had to develop patience she didn't know she possessed. A 7-year-old girl spat on her daily for weeks. A 5-year-old boy bit her. Another urinated on her lap on purpose. "They are testing you," Roberto explained at night, when she arrived home exhausted. "They want to see if you will abandon them like everyone else." "What if I'm not strong enough?" "You are. You just need to keep showing up." And she continued, day after day, week after week. Until slowly, gradually, the children began to trust. The girl who spat started hugging her. The boy who bit started holding her hand. And the one who urinated on her lap, he became the first to call her Mom Célia instead of Aunt. The first adoption that broke her heart. Daniel had arrived at the shelter at 2 years old, removed from a home where his mother left him alone for days while using drugs. He spent 3 years under Celia's care, transforming from a traumatized baby into a vibrant boy. Celia knew she shouldn't have favorites. But she did. Daniel was special, smart, funny, affectionate. He called her Momse and slept only when she sang to him. When a couple appeared wanting to adopt him, Celia felt something unexpected: jealousy. Anger. Roberto, I don't know if I can let him go, she confessed, crying. But you need to. That's the job. You love them enough to let them have permanent families. The day Daniel left, he hugged Celia tightly. Will you forget me, Momse? Never. You will always be in my heart. And can I visit? The adoptive parents, realizing the bond, agreed. Of course you can. Celia will always be part of your story. But visits became rare. Life went on. Roberto, I don't know if I can let him go, she confessed, crying. But you need to. That's the job. You love them enough to let them have permanent families. The day Daniel left, he hugged Celia tightly. Will you forget me, Momse? Never. You will always be in my heart. And can I visit? The adoptive parents, realizing the bond, agreed. Of course you can. Celia will always be part of your story. But visits became rare. Life went on. She attended adoption conferences, wrote articles, trained other coordinators. Hope Shelter had become a model of humanized care. But this had a high personal cost. Roberto and she practically had no married life anymore. She worked 12, 14 hours a day. Took the children's worries home. Woke up in the middle of the night wondering if she had done enough. Celia, you're burning out, Roberto warned one night. You can't save them all. But I need to try. And who takes care of you? Of us? The conversation that followed was painful. Roberto wasn't asking her to quit. He was asking her not to lose herself in it. I married a vibrant woman, full of dreams. Now you are just tiredness and worry. The shelter kids have all of you. I get your leftovers. It was a reality check. Celia had to learn something fundamental. She couldn't care for the children if she didn't care for herself first. She started therapy, set limits, reclaimed her marriage little by little. The case that almost destroyed her in 2008, Miguel arrived, 7 years old, removed from a home where he suffered abuse for years. He was a broken child in ways Celia had never seen. He didn't speak, didn't eat alone, had terrible nightmares every night. And whenever a man approached, he went into total panic. Celia dedicated herself to him with intensity. Slept at the shelter to comfort him during night crises. Sat with him for hours. It took 6 months for Miguel to say his first word, aunt. It took a year for him to smile for the first time. It took 2 years until he allowed hugs without panicking. And when he was finally starting to heal, when Celia saw real progress, the news came. The biological family, uncles who didn't know about the abuse, were suing to get custody back. You can't let this happen. Celia begged the social worker. It's not my decision, it's the judge's. And legally, biological family has priority. Celia fought, mobilized lawyers, testified in court about Miguel's trauma. She lost. Miguel was returned to the family. And 3 months later, Celia heard from a colleague that he had completely regressed. He went back to not speaking. Back to nightmares. It was the first time she seriously considered quitting everything. What's the point? She cried in Roberto's arms. I spend years rebuilding these children and the system throws them back. I can't take it anymore. Roberto held her as she broke down. You can. Because for every Miguel, there are 10 Daniels. 10 Amandas. Hundreds of kids you truly saved. You can't give up because of the ones the system failed. But it hurts so much. I know, but it's because you love. And that love makes a difference. Celia took a week of leave. For the first time in 13 years. She went to the beach with Roberto, turned off her phone, cried everything she needed to cry. And came back, because there were children waiting. The change in the system in 2010, the adoption law changed in Brazil. The process became faster, more protection for children, less automatic priority for dysfunctional biological families. Celia got actively involved, working with legislators. She also started support groups for adoptive parents. She realized many returned children because they weren't prepared for trauma. Adoption isn't charity, she said. It's real parenting. If you want to adopt to be a hero, don't adopt. Adopt only if you are ready to be a real parent. The groups became so important she expanded them. She won awards, national recognition, offers to work in government agencies with much higher salaries. She refused everything. Her place was there, at Hope Shelter. The case that restored her faith in 2012, Lucas arrived, a 1-month-old baby, already chemically dependent. Célia held him for the first time and felt something familiar. That instant connection she had felt with Daniel. She cared for him personally during the critical first months. Through painful withdrawal, incessant crying. When Ana and Pedro Silva appeared wanting to meet him, a white couple wanting to adopt a black child, Célia was skeptical at first. Do you understand the challenges? The racism he will face? We don't understand everything, Ana admitted. But we are willing to learn. Célia saw something in them. Authenticity. And when she saw Ana learning to care for curly hair, Pedro reading about racial consciousness, she knew Lucas would have a real chance. The adoption was finalized, and unlike Daniel, Ana and Pedro kept constant contact. They called with questions, brought Lucas to visit, included her in birthdays. You were the first person who loved my son, Ana said once. You will always be part of his family. It was the bomb Célia needed. Chapter 3. The Legacy 2020. Célia, 60 years old, 25 years at the shelter. The COVID-19 pandemic transformed everything. The shelter had to adapt quickly. Célia, now considered at risk due to age, was advised to work remotely. She refused. These children have already been abandoned once. I won't abandon them now. She stayed at the shelter. 3 employees caught COVID. Célia took double shifts, cooked, cleaned, cared for 52 children. One night, exhausted, she sat in the yard and cried. That was when Sophia appeared, now 14, visiting for the first time in months. Mrs. Célia? Sophia found her crying. Hi, my love. Sorry, I'm just tired. Sophia sat next to her. Remember when I was 5 and you told me I would find my family? I remember. I didn't believe it, but you were right. And you know why I found it? Because you didn't give up on me. Sometimes I feel I don't do enough. Mrs. Célia, look at me. I'm going to MIT next year. MIT. A girl found in a cardboard box. That's because you gave me hope when I had none. You do much more than enough. Célia hugged that girl who had become a young woman. And she understood. Her legacy wasn't just the successful adoptions. It was the message she planted in every child. Roberto's request in 2023, Roberto had a stroke. Not severe, but a warning. Célia, we need to talk about retirement, he said. Not yet. The children will have other coordinators. But I only have one wife. And I want to spend my last active years with you. It was the hardest conversation of Celia's life. She knew Roberto was right. She deserved to rest. But how to leave? She decided on a 2-year transition. She would train a successor. She chose Jessica, 32, black, a former institutionalized child turned social worker. Are you sure I can do it? Jessica asked. Absolutely. Because you have something not even I had. You lived it. You know what these kids feel. The farewell. December 2025. Celia's last day. 30 exact years. The team organized a surprise. When Célia arrived, the yard was full. Not just the 47 current children, but dozens of former residents. Daniel, now 33, came from another state. I never forgot you, Mom say. Amanda, 34, a teacher, brought her students. Lucas, 28, working at NASA, was there. You saved my life. Sophia, 19, MIT student, was there. You are my family too. One by one, over 60 former residents shared stories. I counted once, Célia said, crying, and in 30 years, 847 children passed through this shelter. I didn't save everyone, but every one of you here proves it was worth it. Every tear, every sleepless night. Jessica approached. You leave impossible shoes to fill. Don't try to fill them. Create your own path. And remember, you are the bridge, not the destination. Love knowing you'll have to let go. Epilogue 2030. Célia, at 70, sat on the porch of the beach house. Roberto was by her side. The phone rang. It was Jessica. Mrs. Celia, sorry to bother. But there's a situation. Celia smiled. 5 years retired and they still consulted her. Go ahead, dear. There's a 4-year-old girl. Just arrived. Abused, completely closed off. She won't speak. And I don't know how to reach her. Have you tried just sitting with her in silence? Just being present? Not yet. Try it. Sometimes silent presence says more than 1,000 words. And Jessica? She will test you. Don't abandon her. Keep showing up. Thank you, Mrs. Celia. After hanging up, Roberto commented, You never really stopped, did you? How can I? As long as there are children in need, there will always be a piece of me in that job. That night, Celia dreamed. She dreamed of all the children she had loved. All 847. But they all had something in common. At some moment, they felt unconditional love. And that, Celia realized waking up, was her true legacy. Not the awards, not the articles, but the hundreds of children who grew up knowing, even on their worst days, that there was a woman named Celia who believed in them. And sometimes, that makes all the difference. Final message. There are invisible heroes in our society. People who dedicate whole lives caring for those nobody wants. Who love knowing they will have to let go. This is the story of Dona Celia, a woman who transformed her pain of infertility into love for hundreds of children. Because motherhood isn't about pregnancy. It's about presence. It's about seeing a broken child and deciding, I will stay. If you know someone who works with institutionalized children, say thank you. They are doing one of the hardest jobs in the world. And if you are thinking about adopting, do it. But do it prepared, because these kids don't need saviors. They need real parents. The end.